Guys, I fell for a book scam. So today, we're going to take a look at the five biggest scams that I see in the publishing world right now. And no, I'm not talking about vanity presses. So stay tuned because I can guarantee there's something on this list that you haven't heard about yet. Welcome to Forward Writing, where we talk about how to move your writing forward. My name is Jonathan Jordan. I'm an award-winning ghostwriter, book coach, and book editor. And since 2018, I've helped about 70 authors get their ideas out into the world and get published. And on this channel, what you're going to find are a bunch of weird writing tips, some behind-the-scenes looks at publishing so that you can better navigate the landscape, and also you'll get book marketing tips and tricks to move your book forward. But today, I want to tell you the story about the time that I fell for a book scam. And this is going to be the very first one that we talk about in our list today. So, number one, the first scam is the book promotion scam. Okay, so here's the background of what happened. In 2023, I was coming out of about 6 months where I did not have a single new client for my business. It was rough. So part of what I did with that downtime was start working on an idea that I'm really passionate about, which is a guide for mental health. I've been a lifelong sufferer of anxiety and depression. It's something that I've struggled with and that I've worked a lot to overcome and to be more public about. And so in 2023, I was working on this book called the 30-Day Anxiety Journal, but I didn't have a ton of resources at the time to be able to do a lot of book promotion, to send out a lot of ARC copies to try to get reviews or blurbs or any of the typical things that you would want to do when you are marketing a book. But I still wanted to get it out into the world. And lo and behold, I did a post about it on Instagram. And then I had someone drop into my DMs and say, "Hey, I saw your post about your new book." And so I'm seeing this and I'm thinking, hey, look at that. The hashtags finally worked. It finally got some kind of response. And I'm cautious anytime someone reaches out to me and I don't know who they are. And so what I did was I went to go to their profile to see what they were about. And they had a decent amount of followers. And then every single post were about all of these different books that they were promoting, like what was the book about and who it was intended for. And it had a variety. There were fiction books in there were nonfiction books in there were guides like mine in there, and most of the posts had pretty good engagement. There were comments, there were likes, all of those things. So from a surface level, when I did my investigating, it looked legit. And so I reached back out and I said, "What are you thinking? Like, what's your deal?" And so this person, whoever they were, got back to me and they said, "Yeah, so you pay $40 and we're going to do a post about your book, yada, yada, yada." So they gave me the whole spiel on what that $40 was going to cover. And so I was kind of excited because I was like, you know what? This is going to be worth a shot. I don't mind losing $40 and seeing how this goes. And, worst case scenario, sure, I'm out $40, but let's give it a shot. It looks legit from what I can see. Now, you know how this story ends already, probably. Maybe you've even heard of this scam before. Maybe you've experienced it. But I send the $40 and then I hear nothing. They don't request a file to use of my book. They don't, reach out and ask me for any kind of blurb that they can include. Literally nothing. And then they never posted about my book. And so when I went to dig deeper, I suddenly realized that all these followers that they have, a lot of them are not real people. The comments, the likes, all of that, all fabricated, not real at all. And really, what tipped me off more than anything is once I sent that $40 that I was never going to see again, Within the next couple of days, I got pinged on Instagram by other accounts saying the same thing, saying, "Hey, we're a book promoter, blah, blah, blah." And so then I realized, oh my gosh, this is what's happening is these people are out there and they are preying on indie authors like myself. They are looking for these hashtags. They are looking for these people doing posts about their book, and then they're getting $40 from all of these people, and they're not doing a damn thing about it. So, part of me felt kind of stupid that I hadn't caught on sooner, that I hadn't been more skeptical, and that I hadn't just trusted my gut to say no. But again, on the surface level, when I did just a little bit of investigating, it looked okay. And at the end of the day, I only lost $40. People have lost a lot more to bigger scams than that. But it did open my eyes up to this world of scam artists who are out there preying on authors, and especially indie authors who they know are just so desperate to get their book out into the world. And so, even though we're not going to talk about it today, you probably are already aware that there's lots of vanity presses out there. They're doing exactly the same thing. They're reaching out to authors. They're telling them, wow, your book looks and sounds amazing. We're going to publish your book, and you only have to pay $1,500, $2,000, whatever. And for a lot of authors who maybe they've tried to do the whole querying thing, they've tried to get their book traditionally published, but then they feel defeated because no one wanted to take a look at it. Suddenly, to have that kind of attention, it's a little bit like a drug. Like they're kind of excited about it. And so it was the same thing with this book promotion scam of I felt kind of excited, and there was a bit of a dopamine hit that someone out there had noticed my book and wanted to help me promote it. So it's very similar to what a lot of the vanity press scams are doing, which is going to get us into our second scam of the video, which is the bestseller promise scam. So this is something that a lot of the vanity presses will do once they have an author's attention is they will tell them that they can guarantee that author a bestseller status, which gets, an aspiring author all kinds of excited to think, wow, I can be a bestseller. What a lot of authors don't realize is that bestseller is a little bit of a BS term whenever these people are using it. And a ton of authors just don't even realize what that word means, and that everyone has their different metric for what bestseller means. So, a New York Times bestseller does not mean the same thing as a USA Today bestseller or a Wall Street Journal bestseller. In fact, if you compare the lists week to week, you'll notice that there's titles that show up on different lists because it's not purely based on metrics of what is selling the most. They have different filters that they use. And when you're talking about Amazon, it's a whole other ballgame because Amazon's bestseller status is based on real time data. So you can be a bestseller for one day on Amazon in your category, and then you get to claim that you are a best-selling title. So what these scam vanity presses do a lot of times when they're using the bestseller promise is they guarantee we're going to get you bestseller status, we're going to work with you on this, do this marketing campaign, blah, blah, blah. And then what they end up doing is they end up just buying enough of the author's ebooks so that it can register as a bestseller on Amazon for one day. And then you get your little sticker, right, that says, oh, I'm an Amazon bestseller, even though it was just for one day in a really vague category. So it's very, very misleading. And then when people try to call them out on it and say, hey, I thought you said I was going to be a bestseller, and I can see here I only sold 10 copies. They're like, well, yeah, but that was enough to get you into the bestseller category for your book. And then people are really kind of disappointed and disheartened, and then they realize, uh-oh, I just got taken advantage of. So always be very, very cautious about any professional, whether that is a publisher, whether that's an editor, ghostwriter, whoever. be very cautious about any of them who say they can guarantee your book will be a bestseller because you're probably thinking New York Times, big time, and that may not be what they are saying. So you want to ask a lot of detailed questions and see whether they are willing to answer those questions. Number three is one that I don't see many people talk about, and it's one that I discovered simply by paying attention to a trend that I saw happening in a writing group that I'm a part of online. And so I call this the copyright scam. So a lot of novice authors who don't have a ton of experience in publishing, who maybe this is their very first book, they haven't done a lot of research, or they've been confused about the research. What I see a lot of them do is make the mistake of thinking that they need to get a copyright, like an official US copyright, before they start sending out their book to query for agents or to send out to editors. They're just so worried that someone's going to steal their book and that someone is going to steal their idea. So the first thing I always want people to know is you can't copyright an idea. So someone can steal your idea and they're able to do that. They can make their own book based on your idea, and there's nothing that legally protects you in that situation. In fact, I've got a video that talks about when that happened to my wife, so you might want to go check that one out for the full scoop there. And so it's the same thing with the copyright is when you get a copyright, what's being protected is the specific presentation of your idea. So the words that are there on the page. And a lot of aspiring authors get their copyright way too early. And so here's how the scam works is authors will go and get their copyright before their book is really completely ready. And all of that's public record. So you've got these scam artists out there who are watching the public record and they're able to see your information, your email, where you are. They're able to look you up. And what these scam artists do is they reach out to people who've just registered a copyright and they send an email that sounds kind of like, hey, congrats on your copyright. You're so smart for going ahead and getting that done. We'd love to hear more about your book. And they kind of butter the person up. And the reason I became aware of this scam was because I started seeing it pop up online. Again, in this Facebook group that I'm a part of, I kept seeing multiple authors talk about this. They would say, wow, I just submitted for my copyright the other day, and already I'm hearing from a publisher who's interested in learning more. Has anybody else ever had this experience? This is so amazing. I'm getting so excited. And I saw this happen enough times that I realized, uh-oh, I need to dig into this and see what is happening. And so hopefully this scam isn't happening as much as it was, but for a while there, I was seeing it pop up quite a bit. So if you register for a copyright and you have someone reach out to you saying, hey, we want to talk to you about publishing your book, then you should have all of your red flags up and be aware that they probably are trying to take advantage of you. So don't get so excited by that and hold your work really, really, really close. Number four, this is what I call the fake agent or the fake agency scam. So the internet being the internet, it's really not that difficult to screenshot a photo of someone and then start a Gmail account and pretend to be someone else. And so this is something that's been happening so much that most literary agencies, if you go to their website, you're going to see some kind of notice on there that says, hey, we're aware that somebody is impersonating our agency or they're impersonating our agents. You will never receive an unsolicited email directly from us, and we will never ask you for any kind of fee fee for representation. But what's happening is these scam artists, they set up an email, they are using an agent's picture, and then they start emailing people that they find online, aspiring authors who are talking about querying their book or talking about writing their book. And they'll reach out and they'll say, "Hey, I saw on Facebook, I saw on Instagram that you're talking about your book. The premise sounds really interesting. I'm a literary agent, blah, blah, blah." And if you don't know any better, you're going to go and you're going to go, Google the name of this agent and be like, "Oh, wow, this is a real person. This is a real agent. And I must be living in some kind of fairy tale because they're reaching out to me about my book." But then as you start to dialogue with them, then they start asking for you to pay some kind of reading fee for them to review your manuscript, or they ask for a representation fee. And then you send them that money and you're never going to hear from them again. So a real literary agent, a legit agency, is never going to ask you to pay money for representation. Okay. The way that they get paid is they get a percentage of anything that you make once your book sells. So if you get an advance, they get a percentage of that. Any royalties that you have come in, they get a percentage of that. That's how they make money. They make all their money on the back end. And that's also why agents have to be so particular about who they choose to represent, because they have to have some degree of confidence that they can take your book out and sell it, because that's literally how they are getting their bills paid and putting food on the table for themselves and their family if they have one. So, yeah, if you ever hear from someone claiming to be a literary agent and you Google them and the information seems to match up, but they're using a Gmail or they're using something in their email doesn't perfectly match up with what you see on the official website, then you should be very, very wary. And you should reach out to that agency to let them know, "Hey, I received this email. Is this actually you?" And that way they can do what they need to do and let you know, "Nope, that's not us," or "Yes, it is us." Though I'm telling you now, it's not them. Number 5, let's talk about the trademark scams. So this is something I just learned about recently for myself because I applied for 2 different trademarks. And it was the first time I'd ever gone through that process. And thankfully, when I did the application for a trademark, this must be so rampant that now even the government is taking the time to email you and say, "Hey, be aware that there are scammers out there who may reach out to you." So this one is kind of similar to the copyright scam, because when you apply for a trademark, your information becomes publicly available. And so the scammers, what they do is they reach out to you and they say that they need to follow up about your trademark application, that they are a legal representative who's been appointed to review your file. And sometimes they'll even say something like, "Hey, there's an issue that we really need to know about. And if you don't follow up on this, then your application is going to get canceled." And that's scary for a lot of people because applying for a trademark is not cheap. Even just doing like the basic one is, I think, $350 right now. So for someone who's just spent $350 on the application to hear that their application might get canceled, they're going to start to panic a little bit and be like, "Oh no, I've got to take care of this." But if you log in to your account to check on your trademark, you'll see what the actual status is. And that's what I did. I received several of these kind of notifications, not just in email. They were calling me on my phone and sending text messages and saying they needed to talk to me. But when I logged into my account on the trademark website, the official trademark website through the US, it said that my file hadn't even been assigned to anyone yet. And so I realized, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that they warned me about this scam, because otherwise I would have received that and I probably would have freaked out a bit. Because guess what? I even looked up some of those people online when they reached out to me, and they have legit looking websites, and their websites say that they are involved in trademark applications and trademark registrations, and it looks very official. And so if you're not wary, you might think, uh-oh, this is real. I need to follow up with these people. Then they're going to ask you for money and you're never going to see that money again. And meanwhile, nothing's happening with your trademark. It's completely safe and it's moving forward the way that it's supposed to. I know that this doesn't apply to everyone. Not every author is going out there getting a trademark. But if you are building a brand or you're writing a nonfiction book where you are, you have some kind of framework that you need to trademark or a term that you need to trademark, this can be a really important part of your process because you want to protect your IP, and a trademark is one of the ways that you can do that. So, if that's your situation, whether you're a fiction author who you are building up a whole series and now you've got a business and now you've got some trademark terms that you want to protect, like maybe the name of your fictional country that you've created or the series name, or you're a nonfiction author who's getting a trademark for a business reason, just be aware you're going to be hearing from these scammers. Don't believe it. Always log back into your trademark account and check on the status. And they have a whole portal on there where you can reach out for help and contact someone who actually works for the trademark office. So these are the 5 scams that I think every aspiring author, every writer needs to know about so that you don't fall victim to them. The sad fact is it is getting a lot more difficult to spot scams. A lot more difficult than it was 20 years ago when you would hear from the Nigerian prince. Now people are using AI and they have gotten a lot better at making a website that looks legit. Like there are so many tools out there for people to set up these scams that yeah, it's getting really, really scary. So please, please be so cautious and be aware of what is happening. Ask questions, do your research, do not panic, and don't get overly excited when you hear from someone who's like, yay, we love your book and we want to promote it. Because otherwise, then you're going to lose $40 like I did. So, just as a quick recap, here were the 5 that we talked about: the book promotion scam, the bestseller promise scam, the copyright scam, the fake agent slash fake agency scam, and then the trademark scams. Make sure you're on the lookout for all of those. Warn your fellow writers. Let's help protect each other and support each other. But if you've heard of one of these scams or you've maybe even fallen victim to one of them like I did, I'd love to hear from you. Drop that down in the comments so that we can educate everybody and make everyone safer. If there's a scam I didn't cover on here that you have seen, I'd love to hear that as well, because I may do an update to this video later on because I know new ones are coming out all the time. And then make sure, if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, because I'm always going to be turning over information like this to you guys so you don't have to learn it the hard way. I want all of you to be able to move your writing forward. I want all of you to be able to be successful. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a thing. But thanks for watching. Keep yourself safe and keep moving your writing forward.